Welcome to another episode of Curious Mike. I am here with Lana Rhoades. So people are going to be surprised that we're on a podcast together, but I actually came across one of your podcasts that you used to do because I was messing with one of your friends, and she sent me the podcast, and you were talking about just the dark sides of the adult film industry and the industry, which you used to be a part of, and it really I was really interested and honestly inspired by your story. So that's kind of why I want to have you on, and I appreciate you being vulnerable and coming on the podcast.
If you're unfamiliar with her, she's an ultra instinct adult entertainer, right? This is not someone who made a mistake, fly by night, got one video up there. She has unfathomable amount of scenes doing questionable, extremely questionable, barely legal things, right? So her words and talking about what this is, I think it would be particularly interesting. But let's investigate.
Oh, thank you. That's so sweet.
Yeah, no, for sure. So let's start off just with your childhood. I feel like a lot of people who end up in the sex industry at all kind of have an unorthodox kind of upbringing. Was yours a usual upbringing, or how'd that go growing up?
So there's a lot of things that I've come to terms with recently that I didn't even realize were wrong in my childhood.
Yeah.
Like the past year, I've started going to therapy, and I was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder.
Borderline personality disorder is characterized by marked instability in functioning, affect, mood, interpersonal relationships, and at times reality testing. BPD is associated with significant morbidity due to common comorbid conditions, including dysthymia, major depressants, psychoactive substance abuse, and psychotic disorders. Borderline personality disorder, signs and symptoms. Features that typically begin in adolescence or young adulthood in patients include the following: disturbances experiencing oneself as unique, poor boundaries between self and others, and poor emotion regulation, and the inability to soothe themselves adequately, resulting in excess emotional reactions to stresses and frustrations, maladaptive attempts at self-soothing, threats, self-harm, and angry behavior, an unstable sense of self with poor ability for self-direction and impaired ability to pursue meaningful short-term goals with satisfaction. I mean, it sounds like right here you're writing a job description to be a corn actress. Marked instability in functioning, affect, mood, interpersonal relationships, and at times reality testing. I guess that means association with things in reality, or your ability to fixate yourself to unrealistic standards and expectations. A pattern of impulsivity, risk-taking, and poor self-image. I would imagine that if you take the top female corn stars and place them in a little room and have them tested for this, the majority of them would come out with something similar to what we're seeing right here. It's crazy to think that you have an industry with an employee base that has personality disorders more often than not.
Mm-hmm. And I've been through so many things that I was like, oh, maybe this caused it or this caused it. Yeah. And the one thing that really, I feel like if you don't have borderline BPD, you won't understand the feeling. Mm-hmm. But basically to figure it out, I had to go back and think, when was the first time that I had this feeling that no one loves me, and just overwhelming emotions to the point where it feels like you have to hurt yourself in some way. And so that was, came from just when you're a young child and you're developing your attachment to parents or emotional regulation skills. Mm-hmm. If people invalidate you, say you're crying and your parents yell at you to make you stop, or they hit you, and I'm talking 2-3 years old, obviously you should never hit your kids. Mm-hmm. It can cause that. And I just had no idea. I actually thought that everyone's parents hit them. And I really thought that. I thought maybe it just started young doing it. Yeah. And I asked a couple of my friends, I was like, how old were you when your parents hit you for the first time? And they're like, what? My parents never hit me. Mm-hmm. So there's just a lot. And then I have a sister who has schizophrenia too. Mm-hmm. So I feel like I wasn't dealt the best hand of cards when it comes to family circumstances, which definitely contributed to the decisions that I made when I was older, because if your brain is just completely like warped from going through so much. Like going through certain things can actually change your brain chemistry and
100%, yeah.
and damage it. And so I don't think that I would have made the decisions that I made if I was in a better state of mind, because I only was in the industry for a short period of time, and that was because I finally was able to like get away from where I was living and like be separated and live my own life and experience the world and kind of like heal, because I wasn't in that constant.
Right. Did you have your father around or no?
No, my parents got divorced when my mom was pregnant with me.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then I think you're
leveraging the idea that your parents screamed at you for crying and that being the instigator in you becoming an adult entertainer is nasty work. But utilizing trauma is a scapegoat within modern day times today.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then I think your teenage years is when you kind of started getting into the industry. How did that kind of unfold? Like, what was the steps that you took to even, get into that?
Well, yeah, it was kind of like a progressive like ladder effect. I started out working at like a restaurant similar to Hooters when I was 17. And it's not that I don't like know my dad at all. I just don't spend a lot of time with him. But he like signed the paper so that I could work there, because it's like a restaurant where you have to wear like a sexy outfit, and I wasn't even 18.
Right.
So that was like my first like kind of job where men sexualize you and look at you in that way.
No, you presented yourself sexually and men followed suit, again with the scapegoat for her father. It seems as if she no longer has a relationship with her parents, so she continues to throw them under the bus in an odd attempt to gain sympathy. The lack of accountability here is stunning. Like, nah, like it's not like you wanted to go there or dress how you wanted to be dressed, but it's your father who allowed you to do it.
And I never thought that I was like pretty or anything growing up. So I was like, wow, they hired me here. Like I'm pretty enough to work here. And then like guys coming up to me and giving me $20 and being like, you're so hot, here's $20. It was just like, it was so weird to me, but also validating because I didn't have that self-esteem. Right. So I kind of went further down the rabbit hole. When I turned 18, I left that job and I went straight to becoming a dancer at a club. And then after that, it was porn.
Right. And I don't want to spend too much time kind of in that period of your life, which is a very brief period. I think total, you said you filmed around 8 months? Total?
Yeah, like 2 4-month stints.
Got you. What I really kind of want to get at is the fact that, in terms of being a porn star, like you had everything that any girl in that industry would want. You got the fame, you got the popularity, probably were making more money than most girls. And you kind of threw that all away and now are kind of an advocate like against a lot of the stuff, and you speak openly and you're very passionate about kind of what goes on in the dark sides of the porn industry and how it's not everything kind of isn't as it seems. So what kind of brought about your change in perspective?
Just I actually had an experience so I started doing OnlyFans again, and I had an experience last night with another girl that reminded me of how I felt.
I think news that she's on OnlyFans now is surprising to him because he's coming from a position of like, oh, how altruistic of you to get out the industry and to communicate to girls the dangers of the industry. And she's like, well, I'm still on OnlyFans. Sounds like it's only dangers of the industries when she gets paid pennies in comparison to what she's probably making it on the OnlyFans.
Those times, so it's like I actually couldn't sleep last night because I was just so hurt by this happening. Me and one of my good girlfriends, we went live on OnlyFans last night, and I just like recognized this facial expression that she had, that she looked so uncomfortable. And this was our 3rd time doing it. Like we're friends, like we like kiss off camera and stuff. So I wasn't expecting it, but I was like, are you okay? Like, are you comfortable? And she's like, oh, I just have anxiety. And then she like went off to the side and started just bawling. And I turned the live off, and it's just such, like, I feel honestly destroyed that I
contributed,
even like had like any part in someone feeling not comfortable with what they were doing. And also, like, she was explaining to me that like she needs to make money for certain things, so she feels like she doesn't say no to all the things that she would want to.
Oh, this is pathetic.
It's probably good that this experience happened with me, because I have been through that so much myself that I was able to give her really good advice.
Wow.
Even though it's something that like literally killed me inside to be part of. But that's essentially what it was. It's a bunch of really young girls who get into the industry. Like, the younger, the better for them. These girls, like, when I started, I looked like a little kid.
Ma'am, Miss Rhoades, just because you're saying things sweetly doesn't negate the fact that you talk about the dangers of the industry, but you're still providing a platform for your homegirls around you to cry on live. If you watch her in this interview and you have sympathy for her, you are absolutely bugging. And notice how she's saying things like, I still look like a kid. Again, putting the eye on to men for being monsters that like to look at women that look like kids, and not on herself for being an active participator in the bullshit.
Like, I looked like a little kid, and that's what they like. That's what sells. And a lot of girls, even my friends, we don't feel comfortable saying no for some reason.
Because your thoughts.
Because we just, I don't know, it's just like a natural girl thing. I think we're taught as children to like
be
obedient, especially to like men, or like if you're raised in a religious family, like it's always like obey your father, stuff like that. And so it's a really big problem with girls feeling pressured by like agents who don't necessarily have their best interest in mind, and end up doing a lot of things that really hurt them. Like, for me, there are certain scenes that I did that I felt like I didn't say anything to them because it's work and I wanted to be professional. But for example, when the camera would be behind me and you couldn't see my face, I would be gagging or crying because I did not want to be doing it, and I didn't want to be feeling the things in my body that I was feeling.
So why did you do it? No one is forcing you to suffer a Mortal Kombat brutality on screen, but you wanted to do it to pad your bank account and this emptiness that you feel in your soul. The people around you are not responsible for you saying yes. You are. Mindsets like this continue to push having no accountability for women today, as well as this idea of #BelieveAllWomen. Because no matter her agency in the matter, she will continue to blame others around her, especially men, for the decisions that she made.
Because I was honestly like disgusted by the person that I was having to shoot with, because you don't get to choose.
Right.
So it's just stuff like that that can be very damaging, and it's not the other people's fault. It's just a huge problem that there's not really anything to set up to protect girls that are young and vulnerable, that don't know how to say no, or don't like have self-respect for themselves yet, or care for themselves or love themselves because they've been through so much and like taught not to.
And I feel like a lot of people, you know, I don't know if you guys receive the backlash like, oh, you guys chose to do this or whatever, but when you're in your teenage years and then you're around these older men, I'm sure they're all older.
Yeah, they're all in their 40s. They know exactly like how to get you to do what they want to make them money.
And then you guys don't even really make much, I'm sure.
No, it's pickles. Like, I was the #1 star, and my rate was $1,200 for a scene.
Yeah, and you
$1,200.
Yeah, that's unbelievable.
But obviously, like, a lot of these girls are coming from like small towns, like their families probably don't have money. Like, I thought $100 at the time was like so much money.
Right.
So getting $1,200 was like a big deal. But then I met this boy who worked in, not the guy that I ended up dating for a long time, but I met this other boy that worked in like YouTube and Instagram. And he shared with me that he was getting $15,000 to pose with a Jeep on Instagram.
Right.
And I was like, I'm getting $1,200 for a scene.
Yeah.
This is not okay.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing, like this industry, like it continues to take off, as time goes on, more people are exposed to it at a younger age. It's like a real life addiction for a lot of people, but a lot of these young men that are introduced to it, they don't really know kind of behind the scenes what you guys deal with. They look at these girls on camera and think like, oh, they're enjoying it. This is what they like. This is, whatever.
Yeah.
And I think that it's important for people like you, especially super successful people like you that decided to leave, like to kind of educate young men, and I guess young women now. I saw a stat that a lot of young women watch too, but just that that's not what it is. It's not as glamorous, and it's not like it's not what it appears to be.
If young men are addicted to watching this, we could say that is fair. But your language is focused on the issue that men are for watching this and how we should know what they go through. But your attention is not focused on her lust for fame and fortune. Because think about it, her tune is this way only because she made $1,200 per scene. But if she was making $120,000 per scene, do you honestly think that she would be speaking out against her former industry? Her being on OnlyFans right now proves that to be a lie.
Yeah, definitely. It was like you could not tell at all that I felt the way that I did in the certain scenes because it's a job. It's acting, and like I had like pre-planned things that I was going to say during the scenes, like facial expressions that I was going to make, things that I was going to do because it's
how
fake.
sad.
It's fake.
Oh,
and
pre-planned.
I also think like the point that you made that the guys don't understand what's going on behind the scenes, and then also that people are like, oh, you knew what you got into, and like you get backlash for talking out about it. I think it's because men like consuming and they don't want to feel guilty for consuming it, and so they don't want to hear that I felt the way that I felt, and they refuse to believe that I'm not like a giant whore that wants to get like by like a bunch of big like I'm the biggest prude in real life.
It's not about refusing to believe, it's that men don't care. Why should we care? Who are you? You're not important. Why would I need to know your life story or give a shit about you being well compensated for doing an activity that the majority of people on this planet do for free? The expectation for men to want to know or care about these things, and if not, then shame on man, is ridiculous. I don't give a shit how this banana made it from some tree in Central America into the grocery store. I don't care. I just care that it's ripe.
But how has being a mother kind of changed your life and changed your perspective? Do you feel like, has it helped you?
It's kind of like you win some and you lose some, My pregnancy caused a lot of like health issues that I finally like have gotten under control, and like sort of those also diminished my mental health. Like probably for the past 2 years until recently, I was in like the worst mental health state that I'd ever been in. However, because I grew up in a house with a sister who was extremely mentally ill, and it was like very toxic for me, no matter what, I always make sure to never let my son see that, and to always make sure that whether I'm depressed and stuck in bed, that he has the best nanny taking him to go and do activities if I can't do them with him.
By the way, mind you, she's had her son up on podcasts with her.
Like I don't want the things that I go through to affect him, and I really don't think that they do, because I'm super careful about it. But sorry, what was the original question?
No, I was just curious how just being a mother like has just changed your life or perspective.
Well, recently, so I started taking medication, like going to therapy, and the relationship that I have with being a mother is just so great now. Like I really look at him and I'm like, oh my God, I'm like so lucky to have you. Yeah. Like I'm just really, really enjoying it. Actually, recently.
She's not answering the question because having a son has not changed anything about her perspective. That's why she's having such a difficult time. That's why she's forgetting the question. That's why she's not answering the question.
Because he usually goes to school, and like I haven't even been wanting to send him to school lately because I'm like, I need to spend all the time with you.
Is the dad like around for real, or like is it just you, or how's that going?
Just me. He's only met his dad one time, and after that, like, the dad wasn't super nice about it. So I was just like, I'm not trying this with you anymore. Like,
one of my last questions for you is, like, you talk about how it's been a process to kind of find an identity like outside of the industry and whatever. And your real name's actually not Lana, it's Amara, correct?
Yeah, Amara.
So if you kind of like, have you ever considered just going and leaving the Lana Rhoades like behind and going by your real name and
She ain't gonna make money.
Or is I just wondered, like, I thought your real name was Lana, and then I was doing some.
Sometimes I think my real name is Lana.
Yeah, I was doing some research before this podcast, and it was like Amara Maple, and I was like, huh, like. And
all
then
my friends call me Lana.
Really?
Yeah.
So you just that's just it now.
It might be like going back to like the BPD thing, like you really don't have like a sense of identity. So I've never really resonated with like having a name. Like even when I was a dancer, I had Farah as my name. And all my friends called me that I knew from the club. Or Amara, which is what my family calls me. I think like when I have boyfriends, like sometimes they like switch on and off from using Amara or Lana.
She's a master at not answering questions. The question is would you move away from your name of Lana? Yes or no? Why or why not? But instead, it's just this roundabout answer about her boyfriends calling her different things and her friends calling her different names and her BPD, no association. The fact is that she loves this identity. It's what rose her into fame and stardom. And her lust for attention might be diminished or no longer satiated if she was to step away from that name. And let's not forget the money.
But I really don't notice. And sometimes I actually do think that my name is Lana.
Huh, that's interesting.
You guys let me know, in this entire podcast, did she ever take accountability for anything that has happened to her? Did she ever say, I did this and I regret that and I am sorry for this, or I did this wrong? No. She blames her parents. She blames a personality disorder. She blames her agents, her managers, but never taking accountability for herself, while also continuing to create adult content while a single mother, instead of finding new ways to make money. I really love going over podcasts like this because it really gives you additional insight into the depths of some of these characters. And this one was definitely ripe for critique. Questions, comments, concerns. Y'all already know what to do. mediocretourismreviews@gmail.com. Guys, write your comments down below and let's have a conversation about it. Until next time, YouTube. Peace.